Hello, viewers, and welcome to the latest episode of the Huddle. Tim Poole here, editor of Gambling Insider, and I'm with Yevhen Krazhan at Great Tech. Yevhen, thanks for joining us.
Hi, Tim. Thank you for inviting. It's my pleasure.
I say joining us, you're rejoining us because you've been on the Huddle before. We were just discussing, always interesting to talk to you and your colleagues at Great Tech. Plenty of kind of technological developments, but today we're going to talk about kind of market developments. As a general update, since you last joined me on the Huddle, so how's life for you, and what's been new with Great Tech and your role?
Well, yeah, it's been some time since we last spoke, and I enjoyed it truly. And we were not sitting idle. We were traveling and signing and exploring the new geos and learning, of course, the player experience. So in the last periods, we have advanced a little bit our knowledge of some markets with some confidence, and we definitely advanced with some of the new product launches and product introductions and releases. And definitely, I'd be happy to share a few insights, something that we have done, and maybe something that is coming up quite soon.
Yeah, look forward to delving into those. There's one overarching, I guess, thesis perhaps that I think I'm gonna ask you about now, which is gonna form the base of our conversation. But we're gonna talk about different markets and maybe the tiers of those markets. That's a little clue. But to start this topic off, as you say, you've as a company, you've gained insights from kind of your travels and operations in markets. Let's introduce the topic. Tell us the thesis of kind of operators and what they might be trending towards at the moment.
Okay. So we are working in the entertainment industry, and we really want that to be truly part of what we offer. So it's not only the tech, but it's also the entertainment. And we, as a platform provider and the services, B2B services provider, we definitely want it to be driven in that entertaining way. For instance, the heavyweight club that we are driving with the Alexander Usyk's teams and his Ready to Fight crowd, as well as some of the formats when we deliver the information, some of the latest projects that we have done in the form of more promotion, which is better drives, something like carpool karaoke, which makes it a little bit a new format. Good sponsorships, a lot of activities on our stands. Our stands probably stand out quite more and more, not in terms of size, but in terms of presence of people that are there. But when it comes to the product releases or the new geos that we are entering, this is definitely what we are going to talk about. So for me, this I would say Huddle is interesting, and to drive the main theme of this discussion is where we are, why we are interesting, and what could our players or operators or our clients find when it comes to commercial discussions, when it comes to innovations, when it comes to new experience retentions, and actually being attractive to the overall community of iGaming.
And in terms of the size of markets, I mentioned sort of tiers that operators are going into. So have you guys found that obviously you have your tier one markets? In an ideal world, every company would go into a tier one market and become a market leader, but of course that's impossible. Are operators looking more at the moment into kind of what you might label tier two and tier three markets?
Yeah. This is definitely what we feel our strength is about tier three and tier two, because this is where we have been primarily successful, and this is what we want to share with our, prospective clients and prospects and leads. And this is where we see better conversions, better speed from the lead to actually going live with our platforms and systems. We see a lot of growth happening in those tier two and tier three markets. Some of those markets are definitely underestimated by our competition. And we're talking specifically about maybe MENA, Southeast Asia, maybe a little bit of Africa countries. Those are underestimated because normally the size is a little bit smaller. The buying power is a little bit lower, but the speed of growth and the speed of going live, just copy pasting some of the existing patterns, makes these markets a little bit more simple to operate, maybe for not so heavy and not so experienced operators. And this is what we find as our focus for the time being. At least 2025, this is where we are focusing, and this is where we are inviting the guys that want to experiment, for instance, extend their geo focus, come to us and we'll help you and we'll give you all the metrics for these countries, and you'll definitely see a lot of interesting points.
So those are the advantages, the business advantages. In terms of geographically, where some of these kind of tier 2 and tier 3 markets are with, as you say, maybe better access and less need for investment, which ones are we talking about, and which ones are perhaps kind of the prime ones?
Well, when we're talking Southeast Asia, this is the area where we could be providing really good metrics and KPIs. Another region could be MENA, which is this between Europe and Africa and the actual Asia. Those countries would be in that region. They're very interesting in terms of not only driving digital, but a combination of land-based and maybe bet shops and agency networks. And of course, the experience there and popularity is a little bit different. Of course, LATAM has never been, walked out, even though Brazil has become a little bit more complex and sophisticated, mostly due to, unclarity of the regulations. But some of the adjacencies around Brazil, such as Argentina and maybe Colombia and maybe Chile and Peru, are still very attractive.
Yeah, certainly, as you say, Brazil slightly complex
Yeah.
in recent kind of headlines and news. But so you mentioned quite a few markets there, so there's a lot of potential. But I suppose when you look at the total volumes and revenue numbers, obviously the bottom line is kind of maximizing GGR everywhere you can. But in markets like this, could they potentially, if as they grow, ever maybe challenge, the bigger tier 1 markets, or will they always be maybe just at lower populations, just be lower, and that you might need to just be present in more of those markets to compete?
Well, looking at India, even though India is considered tier 3, I would say, maybe somewhere between tier 2 and tier 3, the sheer size of India is definitely more than some of the tier 1 European countries. But India is not homogeneous. It's different states, different regulations, different regimes, different people, different even languages that they speak. So we cannot consider India as just one country. But the sheer potential is huge, and some operators are being successful, but some are still not, because it's really growing competitive, and the average RPU is growing, and the entry barriers are also growing in terms of payments, in terms of marketing spend required. So India, I would say, is definitely I would say bigger and bringing more potential for clients, but again, sophistication is also quite high. But other examples of countries like, for instance, Chile or Peru or maybe even Argentina, they would probably stay, I would say, average and on the smaller scale compared to big boys like, I don't know, tier 1 Europe, UK or Germany. So we're not comparing those, and they will probably likely be staying in that area, even though we are seeing Argentina is showing good GDP growth. But still, I would always keep them, at least for the next couple of years, as tier 2 or maybe tier 3. But the difference, as I was saying, is evident to us. The growth is quicker. Time to launch is quicker. Players are not as sophisticated and experienced as in tier 1. So, which makes it very interesting. And our position has always been, to keep sports as the front line of our offering. And all of these countries, for instance, in India is definitely cricket, in Argentina is definitely football. Some other countries are maybe getting active on esports, but traditional sports is where a lot of money is made. But casino is definitely is the money-making machine in these countries, no matter where you go, because it's just a simple game of luck stuff. Yeah.
India, as you say, a rather unique example, and I suppose obviously you've mentioned a number of good markets there, especially Latin American markets that are worth going into. But if you look at a country like India, and I say like India, there's not many, a huge population. You're talking just maybe in terms of population, China maybe that's it in terms of
China,
competition.
Indonesia,
Yeah.
Pakistan. Yeah, there are similar
Mm.
countries, not as big as, 1.5
Yeah.
billion, but definitely something like 200 million is already worth paying attention to. I think Brazil is in the range of 200 million, which is quite sizable and huge. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you look at a market like that, especially India, as you say, it's becoming more sophisticated, but still, if we class it as you said, kind of maybe tier three, less investment needed, is that a market where an operator can look and say, if we get enough market share in this market alone, that can be a whole business.
Exactly. But what I'm saying is that India is big and a lot of big players are there. So competition is definitely there. But the untapped potential is also there. I think penetration of iGaming is not 100% and far from being 100% because literacy is growing, smartphone penetration is growing, internet speeds are picking up, prices for internet are becoming more and more affordable, internet packages are growing. And of course, this is a young population that is, definitely just like, maybe Africa, uh, it's growing. I think Africa alone is one of the top growing, continents. And this is where the attraction is coming from. If we, for instance, compare population growth between Europe and Africa, it's like the, tenfold difference. So maybe the RPU is a little bit lower, and maybe still guys are looking for some quick money making, not so much as entertainment. But still, we are also bringing a lot of educational stuff with introducing limits, with understanding which markets to disable, not to create a lot of fraudulent operations. I think it's also, part of more simple gameplay that we're offering. To us, of course, sports is more straightforward. In sports, there's a lot less fraud compared to, simple money making as casino. Therefore, we feel, that responsible gaming is coming from us into sports, that just popularizing things.
So keeping this broad theme in mind, you've mentioned some specific examples already, but looking into heading into Q4, end of kind of 2025, what are the specific areas you're working on as a company in terms of partnerships or products that can, help best maximize these opportunities that we're discussing now?
Well, if we start from something simple and maybe sports related, we are introducing the sports API product, which is more targeted to the sophisticated operators that would want to keep their own front end, but are lacking the power of the back end of the sportsbook. We are also enhancing our offering on the MTS, which is managed trading service for clients that do not want to buy the iframe or the full sportsbook. They want only the feeds. With MTS, we're also offering this risk management and anti-fraud included, plus some bets acceptance. So more or less a fully managed, bet acceptance cycle. This is on the sports side. On the full platform side, I think the big innovation is coming from us more on the crypto platform, because we traditionally were more on the traditional sports, with being USD or Euro being the main gameplay currency. But with the advancements in the last couple of years, we see the crypto platform as definitely a specific niche and segment, which is growing quite actively. So we decided to merge the two into one. So from now on, and I think we can already start, making some release notes about that. You cannot play only in USD or Euro. You can play in Solana. You can play Bitcoin or Ethereum or some of the stable coins. Up to, I would say, 55 coins you can use as your prime gameplay currency, which is also bringing another, simplifications of MetaMasks or Wallet Connects, just to, authenticate you using your crypto platform, basic authentication tools, and some of the other things. So this is, I would say, number two, big advancements. I would say number three is something on the affiliate part. Affiliate software that was enhanced with the agency functionalities, especially catering to those I would say, cash markets of tier 2 and tier 3, where still there is a lot of street betting and street agents still working quite actively. So supporting those operators that still are able to work with those street markets and the street shops and bet shops, as we call them. This is the functionality that I think will be very much handy. It's integrated fully. It's real-time data, just like an affiliate platform. And I would say as number 4 would be something related to non-stop advancements of the CRM and gamifications, which is also, I think, a key piece related to making sure that we are automating processes as much as possible. Recently, we have added quite a few, auxiliary tools on the customer support. We originally were working mostly with Salesforce, but recently we have advanced into Zendesk and live chats, and I think there's another one that we're also providing as a portfolio offering. So I would say these are top 3, 4 advancements that we feel would be not only fancy but also practically used by a lot of clients.
Yeah, plenty mentioned there. But my mind is maybe it's a slightly separate topic, but drawn to the gamification that you mentioned, because it was a big kind of discussion point, I'd say maybe 2-3 years ago in the industry. But I think now it's at an interesting stage where you maybe hear less shouting about gamification, but that doesn't mean that it's going down. It's because it's just an essential part of the offering. It's just if you don't have it, you're way behind.
Right.
So it's a staple, and when you were talking about it there, it was almost like we talk about gamification like we talk about having a homepage. It's essential.
Correct. And this is very true, because when the new product is released, there's a lot of buzz, but very little adoption. I think after those 2 years of buzzing about gamification, we have finally came to understanding that every success manager in our company can use it effectively, just like AI. So we were never selling AI as a tool or as a product. We were just making sure that it's used. But in some cases, for instance, the clients do not have practical experience of years, and the teams are just newly built. And some of that explanation needs to be done, how gamification is used, what it actually adds. And some of the operators are lacking basic experiences, and we're not, neglecting those, because this industry is growing. This industry is full of startups. So disregarding startups means you disregard 99% of the business. Even though we are trying to target towards big boys and heavyweight clubs, there's still a lot of discussions, a lot of, lead generation, a lot of interesting, questions. And I think the prominence of working in iGaming is making the startups, grow and glow, because the big boys have a little potential to grow. They're big already. They probably would want to stay at the radar level, not expanding too much, because probably, the efficiency gains will be smaller. But for small guys to actually explode and grow, this could be part of a big kind of objective for any provider, to find that little star and diamond that has a huge potential, but superficially it may look like all the same people. So working with the guys that are dedicated and committed and want to invest, this could be a great, I would say, objective. And this is where myself as a sales and business development, this is where we want to focus our attentions on only those guys that have potential. And especially for these guys, gamification tools, investing in customer success is definitely paying off, significantly.
So we've got a couple of final topics for you. At the end, I want to ask you a little bit about perhaps targets, because you just mentioned obviously the sales angle. So that'll be quite interesting to hear about. But I also want to ask you about Great Tech's show strategy. And it's a question that I'm asking in a lot of huddles at the moment, and it will naturally receive a lot of different answers, because obviously we have SBC Lisbon coming up, and definitely want to hear your thoughts and your previews on that show. But in terms of show strategy, there's a lot of trade shows at the moment, a lot of good ones. What's Great Tech's approach? Are you looking at going to as many as possible, or now cherry picking the best shows? And I think there'll be a few different strategies in the industry. What are you guys doing?
So the show strategy, I would say, is made of a few pillars, main pillars. We want to be present with big stands and big teams at the global ones, which I would say between 3 and 5 globally. And this is where we're bringing a lot of people, 30 to 50 people. Not all of the people are standing at the stand. We want them to actually communicate. We want them to socialize, and we want them to be present everywhere, just building the connections. There are some, I would say, level 2 conferences where I am going and my team is going as a sales team just to continue conversations. But overall, I think the shift of great tech focus is the stand style. Overall, I would say the conferences are bringing in my pipeline something like up to 50% of all the potential discussions, conversations, and signed deals. So it's a sizable, remarkable, I would say, acquisition channel. Not everything is happening, day one. You met somebody and immediately there is a signed contract and something going live. The lead cycle and sales cycle could be taking months. So we are definitely prepared, but the branding should be there. If you're not visible, nothing is going to happen. And we want to be definitely brought into the top 10, top 5 iGaming providers. But there's also an important piece is how to present yourself at these shows. And our recent investment, this is where I was leading, is to become a big partnership and sponsor, for instance, to somebody visible in the area of sports. And we have chosen that to be Alexander Usyk, the ultimate and undisputed heavyweight championship, and his team ready to fight. And therefore, we reformatted our stand into the heavyweight club. And now we are furthering reformatting our even, promise and statement into the heavyweight platform, which means that you can start small, but you definitely have a potential to grow with us.
Really interested to hear. They'll see that question will have it's open ended, so there'll be different answers from everyone. But two points that really stood out was that the emphasis on bringing more people. Because again, that's something that will vary with companies, and also that you sort of the figure of kind of up to 50% of kind of as a pipeline of new business. So that does highlight that some of these shows are definitely worth being at. A final question. So this is on Huddle's chief revenue officers, chief sales officers, chief CCOs.
Yep.
They'll have internal sales targets, which I'm sure you. As much as I push, you probably won't be able to tell me. But in terms of if you could have one sort of personal target, I mean, obviously company-wise as well, but going into the end of the year and heading into 2026, what would be absolutely top of your list that you would love to say to whomever, to the CEO, to customers, say that this is what we did and this is the top of my list?
Hard to answer that one because, with my kind of background into, professional sales and B2B sales, there is no one target. For me, ultimate target for any sales guys is the new sales revenue, something that is coming immediately and you can count it. Number 2 is definitely how many deals we're signing. I think my target for deals is 100 plus in H2 only. This is H2 only. I would say number 3 is bringing new channels. And for me, the new channel of acquisition is not going to be conferences or inbounds or outbounds. This is going to be agency networks. This is the hybrid, but I like this channel specifically, and this is my personal target that I am driving myself, is actually to find those guys that are connected, are represented, and they're bringing credibility. And these guys can be quite, cutting the edges of the sales cycle. Therefore, this is my prime focus, is to build a huge, globally known network of agents for great tech that will definitely be bringing us wonderful leads and we'll be sharing a lot of revenues with them. So revenue number 1, sign deals, and my specific personal one, which is growing and advancement of the agency network.
Fantastic. I mean, best of luck. It's a busy list. No, I appreciate a nice tangible answer to that one. And that concludes our discussion. Thanks for joining me. Pleasure as always to speak with you, and I'm sure that when we speak again, we'll have a plethora of even more topics to revisit.
Wonderful. The questions, I think, are very up to date. It's good that we are having SBC Lisbon coming shortly, and we'll see you around, and hope it was interesting and quite eye-opening for some facts. We were sharing some facts, some real insights and numbers. Hope that helps. And of course, we invite anybody who wants to be, or standing by or walking by our stand at Lisbon. Definitely we'll have a conversation, because this business is really fast-paced and a lot of opportunities are really, really at your fingertips. So welcome to our stand, and hope to see you around, guys, and enjoy.
Absolutely, and thanks for your time, Yevhen, and to the viewers. Come by Great Tech Stand, but also come back for the next huddle as well. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Enjoy. Bye-bye.